Right now, the average American household spends close to $900 every winter just to heat their home, and most of that heat disappears within minutes of the furnace shutting off. In 1965, a heating method that kept American farmhouses warm for 12 hours on a single fire, using nothing but stone and brick to store and slowly release heat, began disappearing from common building knowledge as gas furnaces took over. I'm going to show you exactly what they replaced, exactly who profited, and exactly how the same principle can cut your heating bill starting this winter. Tell me in the comments what you pay to heat your home each winter, because what I'm about to show you stores heat for hours using nothing but mass and physics. A standard fireplace loses 80 to 90% of its useful heat straight up the chimney. It is an incredibly wasteful design, converting only about 20% of the wood into actual room warmth. The fire burns fast, the room gets hot, and the moment the flames die, the cold returns. A masonry heater operates on a completely separate physical principle. When a short, intense fire burns at over 1500 degrees inside its chamber, the hot combustion gases do not escape immediately. Instead, they travel through a network of internal brick and stone passages before reaching the chimney. Dense materials like brick, fieldstone, and soapstone absorb this thermal energy, storing it like a battery. According to testing protocols recognized by federal energy standards, this method allows the outer masonry to maintain a steady, comfortable, radiating temperature for 8 to 12 hours after the fire itself has gone out. A standard furnace or fireplace fights a constant battle against heat loss. A masonry heater simply stores the heat in stone and lets it leak out slowly on its own schedule for half a day at a time. For 40 years, I have studied how our ancestors kept their homes warm without sending their hard-earned money to power companies. They relied on this basic physics of thermal mass, a clean, independent method of storing heat that requires no mechanical blowers, no electrical grids, and no constant refueling. During the 19th and early 20th centuries, masonry heating was simply how people survived the winter in cold American farmhouses. Families built their homes and daily routines around massive central brick chimneys, soapstone stoves, and regional immigrant-designed stone systems brought over by Finnish and Swedish settlers. These heavy structures captured the thermal energy of a single fire and kept entire households warm through freezing nights. But as the mid-20th century arrived, the rapid expansion of long-distance natural gas pipelines shifted the entire landscape. Utilities, fuel suppliers, and equipment manufacturers began marketing the effortless convenience of instant, on-demand warmth. By the mid-1960s, suburban developers and standardized builders phased out mass-based heating entirely, designing every new home around ducted forced air gas and oil furnaces. This shift created a massive, captive customer base for energy companies, while the traditional low-cost wisdom of thermal mass was quietly pushed aside. A method that heated a home for 12 hours on one fire became a method nobody learned anymore, replaced by a system that burns fuel every single day, all winter long, generating a bill every single month. But a man in rural Vermont built a version of this for under $200 using reclaimed brick, and now heats his living space through entire winter nights without his furnace running once. That is coming up you do not need to rebuild your chimney. You do not need a professional mason for a basic version of this principle. I always tell folks to start with what they already have right inside their homes. If you have an existing wood stove or fireplace, you can easily build a heat-retaining hearth pad or a dense masonry surround using brick, stone, or large ceramic tile. During the fire, these heavy, dense materials absorb the intense radiant heat that usually just warms the room for a brief moment before escaping. Instead of letting that energy vanish, you capture it right where you need it most. Mass holds heat. That is the entire principle. Give heat something dense to soak into, and it keeps giving that warmth back long after the fire is out. This basic addition forces the heat to stay where you actually live, warming your space for hours after the flames die, allowing you to bypass the utility companies and their rising bills. Now, I'm not suggesting you just pile up loose bricks haphazardly around a hot stove. Safety comes first, and we have to respect the physical limits of our materials. If you use dry fire brick or clean, reclaimed clay brick, they must be stacked at safe, code-compliant distances from your existing stove. When a dense stone or brick mass sits near a heat source, it will extend your warmth, but only if it has proper ventilation and physical separation to prevent heat pockets. Do not expect some magic overnight drop of 50% on your utility bill next Tuesday. I look at this as practical runtime relief, getting a few extra hours of heat out of every log, keeping your home comfortable closer to dawn, so your furnace does not kick on. Local inspectors and builders who spend their lives around chimneys will tell you that minor details are exactly what keep you safe. Always consult local building codes and a qualified professional regarding clearances and ventilation before modifying any heating appliance setup, because codes vary by location. I recently looked at the home of a retired carpenter living in an older farmhouse up in rural Vermont. He was facing those brutal northern winters, watching his propane bills climb higher every year, despite having a perfectly good wood stove in his living room. Over the course of a few weekends, he took matters into his own hands. Using salvaged brick from a torn-down chimney on his own property, he built a thick, reclaimed brick surround and a wide hearth extension around that stove. He spent under $200 total, mostly on basic mortar and simple tools. He did not need a new heating system. He needed somewhere for the heat from a fire he was already building to actually stay, instead of disappearing up the chimney in 20 minutes. Now, he estimates that a single solid evening fire leaves a comfortable, noticeable warmth radiating through his living area deep into the night, keeping his backup propane furnace quiet for hours. He estimates his propane delivery bills are down significantly simply because the heat has a place to rest. Think about your own home. What are you paying the utility companies every single winter just to keep your house livable? If you already have a wood stove or an old fireplace sitting in your living room, you might already have the foundation of your own independent system. I've spent decades looking at how different cultures solved this. It wasn't just an American farmhouse tradition. In Russia, families refined massive brick masonry stoves over centuries of brutal winters to keep their entire homes warm. The Finnish built parallel masonry stove traditions like the ponto to survive sub-zero northern European nights. Even in ancient Korea, the ondol system routed heat from a single fire through thick stone channels built right beneath the floors, creating hours of radiant warmth. Every culture that faced a genuinely cold winter eventually arrived at the same answer: store the heat in something heavy and let it give that warmth back slowly. Your great-grandparents did not need a thermostat. They needed stone, brick, and a little patience. We traded self-sufficiency for a monthly utility bill we cannot control. But the physics of masonry warmth never changed. I believe we must reclaim this forgotten independence. Get on the early access list at earlhadley.card.co.